Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalatu wassalamu alayka ya khatmun nabiyyin. Ladies and gentlemen, it's our pleasure today. We are with Saliha Sadiq, mental health expert, and in this field, Saliha don't need any introduction. One of the most famous in up north side and in different universities. Her work will speak once we start questioning. We'll ask her for further details. Let me introduce her. She is recently appointed to work at Bradford University for Mental Health Advisor and Vice Chair and Director of Mental Health Hub at Milan Center and also mental health practitioner. Salia, welcome to my program. It's our pleasure. We'll have you and we'll discuss. It's a very sensitive topic, especially for Asian community. Mental health is a serious problem, but eh, our community don't want to know and don't want to discuss. So, can you tell us briefly, please, Salia, how you explain what is mental health?
Mhm. First of all, Assalamu alaikum. Like I said, my name is Saliha Sadiq, and I'd like to say thank you, Jamil Bhai, for inviting me today. Mental health within our South Asian community is a very difficult taboo subject. It's often brushed under the carpet. It's something that we don't want to talk about, and for decades it's been happening. Mental health, people have misconception about mental health. Some people say, if you've got mental health, you are pagal hai aap, you will be in hospital, तो आपको hospital में सारी जिंदगी रहना पड़ेगा or you'll be locked in hospital. So people have their own kind of definitions of mental health. Mental health is something that we collectively, within our Asian community, we need to work together and eradicate these barriers and stigma attached to mental health. And it's okay not to be okay, and and it's important to talk. As much as we talk about mental health, this is how we're going to get awareness and knowledge. So I plead to everybody out there that please encourage people, see the signs of mental health. Sometimes people can be suffering in silence or in isolation, and the signs sometimes are there. They're withdrawn, they have suicidal thoughts. Sometimes they want to take overdose. So there's different. It's a big spectrum, mental health, and it's so important to recognize the signs and receive early intervention as soon as we can, and support each other.
Okay, thanks for this. Most important question. Why the Asian community is reluctant to come forward and discuss mental health issues?
They're reluctant because, like I said, it's often been brushed under the carpet. The subject of mental health is something which has not been kind of recognized within our community. There's no such thing as mental health. This is what I hear all the time. Some people might say, especially the younger generation, they might go to the parents and say, we are struggling, we're struggling from anxiety, we've got low mood. Parents sometimes turn around and say, there's no such thing as mental health. We have 6, 7, 8 children, and we survived, we carried on. We did not discuss or say we've got mental health. So, so they basically just kind of push them away rather than saying, look, what's going on? Let me listen to the issues. It could be school issues. It could be anything but that young boy or girl is going through. So I think it's so important that our parents, the older generation, are a bit more sensitive, and I think it's up to us practitioners to bring awareness to the older generation and work with them very closely, rather than kind of pushing them away. Because if we work in partnership, I think it's so important that we will get this message across. And another thing is, Jamil Bhai, that it's a trust issue within our community. It's a bit like Chinese whisper. People say, if I tell somebody I'm suffering from mental health, it might get passed on to somebody else, or so people might judge me if I say I've got mental health, and so it's automatically the barriers go up. And also, there's also issue about, will I be seen as a weak person? It's a shameful thing if I say I've got mental health. And if I do approach somebody professionally, I might get labeled. So these are the main reasons behind why people within our Asian community, BMA community, are not coming forward and seeking mental health support, because of the label which is attached to that.
जी नाजरीन, जैसा कि आप सुन रहे थे कि मेंटल हेल्थ इश्यूज जो हैं वो किस तरह एशियन कम्युनिटी जो है उस रिलक्टेंट है कि उसको डिस्कस करने के लिए। अभी सालिया से बात करेंगे कि वो क्या वजह है कि हमारे एशियन लोग जो हैं वो इस मामले को डिस्कस करने पे तैयार नहीं।
Lot of trust issues here, and that's the reason why people won't come forward, or sometimes they don't know where to access the support from. Sometimes it's a very little support, or they might go to their GP and say they're suffering from mental health, and sometimes a 6 months or 1 year wait. So there's a number of factors behind people not accessing mental health, but the main one is the stigma and the barrier attached to mental health. And I think it's so important that we collectively work together in partnership and tackle this issue by talking about it and bringing awareness, encouraging people in the family household to talk about what they're going through, and be open, have an open discussion. I mean, it's like physical problems, we talk about them. I think it's so equally important to talk about mental health.
Okay, as you said, from your question, I noted one point that because it's long list, if you go to your GP, and it's long waiting time. Mm-hmm. What you will suggest? I think it looks like that it's not many Asian, especially Bangladeshi and Pakistani people. We don't have many people around us speaking same language like Bangladeshi. If they speak Bangladeshi language, especially for older people, need speak in their own language. Same Pakistani, because the older people, they are more fluent in their own Pothohari or Punjabi or whatever language is. So if how you suggest me that we can encourage more people to train as a mental health specialist, and then they can go in community. So what you suggest about this, and what type of courses are available? If you know any information, we can.
Yes, absolutely. I would like to give one example of how I managed to get through to some of our Asian community members during the COVID. I work for NHS full time as a mental health practitioner, but as soon as the lockdown happened, there was discussions about it. I put early interventions in place at Millen Centre for the service users only because I was a qualified counsellor, I was a qualified social worker, I was a qualified mental health practitioner. So I had the knowledge and experience and the skills to deliver effectively and make a difference. And you're absolutely right by saying the language is such a big barrier in accessing services and support. But because I was able to speak Urdu and Punjabi, I was able to convey the message about mental health to the service users and saying, look, it's okay, it's acceptable. I'm here to listen. And they felt they could trust me because I came from the same cultural background as them, and I understood and empathized what they were going through. And it's amazing how, I managed to set up with Elizabeth Helmich, one of our chairperson at Millen Centre, managed to set up 3 projects. One one Safer Than Ever for older generation, one Emerald Girls project, counselling project, and one for boys, which was called Brave Minds Project. I mean, I only was successful in getting through to them was because of I was able to speak the language. So that was one plus factor that I had. And secondly was my qualifications, because I don't think I would have been effective if I did not have the right qualifications and experience behind me. So I think it's so important. And recently I read about Stephen Fry. He put something in an article about how important it is for people to access mental health. GPs, there's a long waiting list with GP. Sometimes this is a 6 months to access support in the community. So whereas I just kind of accepted self-referrals from the community members, got more people on board, trained them to become, mental health support workers. So it's very important that we have, we educate ourselves. It's easy to access counselling courses or diplomas or degree or psychology degree, and especially with younger generation, English is not a barrier to them, but the older generation it is. So what I tend to do is now I do a lot of presentations in the community centres, presentations by bringing awareness about mental health and how we can access support within the community. I've also wrote to Tracy Brabing, one of our Yorkshire Mayor politicians, saying that language is such a big barrier. I was in Look North and talked about language difficulties and barriers, the reason why our South Asian community are not accessing support out there. So that this is ongoing. This has been ongoing for years, but more so during the COVID. It's more kind of highlighted, and people are bringing more and more awareness on how collectively we can work together. So yes, for especially the younger generation, any person who like to pursue a career in psychology, counselling, psychiatrist, there are different ways that you can access them by going to university. There's Open University. So I think it's important that we come forward and educate ourselves, and then we can effectively, we're competent in delivering services to the communities, our community, and protect them.
Okay, Saliha, and can you explain how children were coping during the COVID? Because it's nearly, I can say, 6-7 months of off school, and what was the especially our children activities during the pandemic?
Yes, it was a very difficult time that a lot of parents and the young children went through. They had a normal routine, daily structure, going to school, but all of a sudden that was taken away from them. They had to access learning online, which some parents, again, because of language barrier, were not able to access education online. They struggled. There was sometimes some parents, due to poverty, low income, they could not buy laptops. School did provide some laptops, but if one household has 5-6 children and they had to share one laptop, that just was not ideal situation. So that was a struggle itself. So the people who struggled due to low income, again, they struggled furthermore. People who were middle class were able to, had good jobs. They were able to, access laptops, and their children were thriving. So it was a bit of a mixture of everything which were going on with young people. The young children also suffered anxiety. There was more and more referrals I received in CAMS and at Millen Centre, because again, going to school was their livelihood, mixing in with their peers, doing day-to-day activities, and then all of a sudden being isolated at home, just doing a bit of education online, and that's it really. So it had a huge impact on their mental health, and we're still dealing with that mental health, the impact it's had on them. It's going to take us a long way. Even now, people are worried because coronavirus has not gone; it's still here. and the children are fearful. What if we have corona? What if we don't survive? Because obviously they can see the news, they know what's going on. So it's been a very difficult time. And another issue which has been brought to my attention is domestic violence. There's been increase of domestic violence, and the impact that it's had on
Yeah,
children.
this is very important question, and few of our viewers they ask that ask you this question about the violence
Yes,
during this pandemic time. Yes, please.
yes. Yeah, this has had a huge impact on young people. Witnessing domestic violence, and again, mentally they're quite disturbed, and then there's past traumas where they witnessed domestic violence years ago, and it's kind of come back again, and that is because parents maybe they're out of the job, they lost their there's no income to provide food for the young children and the families, so that had a strain on their relationship. So again, the young children have seen everything, and there's been more and more increase of domestic violence, and there's been more deaths due to that. And we're dealing with that now. We are dealing with young people coming to camps at Millen Centre, and the effect it's had on them, and even now it's having on them. So yes, this is a big concern within our community and the whole community due to pandemic.
Okay, and during the first lockdown, you set up 3 projects
Yes.
about 3 projects, and how did they came? What was the results, and it was help for our community, and what type of work you did?
Yes, like I said earlier on about the projects I set up with Elizabeth Helmich, I mean, I was aware of the issues prior to the lockdown. I was talking about mental health, bringing awareness to the older generation. So I already started the work prior to the lockdown, and when the lockdown actually happened, I was fearful. I remember making that call to Elizabeth saying, I'm worried about the service users. They came to the centre, especially over 50s, once or twice a week. That was a social gathering that they interacted with friends, and they had hot meals. And then all of a sudden that was taken away from them. And then they were just stuck at home, isolated, no one to hardly talk to. It was a very difficult time. It was a very difficult time for me to see that what the women were going through. So that's why I set up these projects, like I mentioned earlier on, Safer Than Ever for women, and Emerald for the girls counselling group, and Safer Than Ever for young boys, because we always tend to neglect the boys and men. We always think it's only women who have these issues, but men are seen as strong and they can deal with it. But no, men also have issues and problems, and they want to talk to somebody. So that's why we also set up for young men. And so many parents came forward and said, we are so grateful that you've done that. So many men said, we are glad that you counselled our sons, and because we never had that. Over the years we struggled with our emotions and our feelings, we suppressed them, but at least our children are not going through that. We can encourage them. But what came out of these projects which was fantastic, not just saving lives, but the older generation, getting them involved and listening to them, offering them counselling on a regular basis, that really helped. And we forget that the older generation have come from Pakistan or India, Bangladesh. They have their own traumas, and some remember the partition when that happened. So they had a lot of stories to talk about, and their fear came from then, and then the COVID had also had the impact on the mental health. So that gave them the opportunity to have the safe space to talk. So that was absolutely amazing. These 3 projects have been in newspapers all over the countries, even Pakistan. It was highlighted everywhere that mental health has, if you receive the right support, right early intervention, it has saved lives. And you can improve your lifestyle. But like I always say, we need to work together. We need to bring the awareness, and also education is so important. I couldn't have done this without me being qualified in different areas.
Okay, now how come we eradicate these mental health barriers to get rid of the problem about it?
Well, like I said, talking about it, the more we talk about it, the more we bring awareness. I think it's individuals' responsibility. It's all of our responsibility to say, right, it's okay. You know, it's okay not to be okay, and let's talk about it and see the signs and the symptoms. Sometimes it's very clear the signs are there. Somebody just wants to talk to somebody, or they're going through a bereavement, somebody's going through different traumas, somebody have relationship issues, because if they're not discussed, they get worse. Then it can turn into a psychiatrist issue, for example, clinical depression, schizophrenia. There could be different kind of different issues can rise. But it's so important, and I always emphasize on this: early intervention is the best way forward. And I will encourage everybody out there, it doesn't matter who you are, what age, we all are human beings. We have feelings, we suffer, and we need to seek help. We need to get out there and find out where we can seek help from. I am writing an article about how I feel South Asian community can benefit from mental health support is by having more funding and resources in community centres and local projects where they can have a walk-in policy where young people can just walk in and make appointments straight away, rather than having a waiting list and waiting there for 6 months or 2 years. That would be a good start. So that's something which I am actually looking into with some local councillors and MPs.
Okay, Salih. And other thing is, what's the difference between psychiatrists and mental health expert? Or
So
they can do both same things, or they are totally two different fields?
say that again, sorry.
What is it anything common between uh, mental health expert and psychiatrist?
Psychiatrists, we're all professional in our own rights. We're all professionals. Psychiatrists usually deal with the medication side, and they carry out thorough assessment of what's going on, and we do the same. The only difference is we don't give medication. But yes, we're all working in partnership. We work together. So we're all professionals.
Okay, and next thing is multiple personality disorders. What's the reason behind it?
Like I said, it could be past traumas. It could be certain things have happened, a shock, a bereavement, or something which has not been talked about over the years. And it can start from a young age. As a child, you might have experienced sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse. You witness domestic violence, and because you've not been supported right at the beginning, or because you didn't feel comfortable in talking about these issues, as you get older, these issues are suppressed, but they do eventually affect you. So it can result into a different kind of diagnosis, maybe such as clinical depression or schizophrenia, bipolar, personality disorder. It could be anything, but my aim is to kind of avoid that as much as we can, and if we can seek help at the beginning, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, and other thing, during the pandemic, last year and a half nearly, parents were under lot of pressure, and it was showing that parents were shouting at children, upset all the time. It affect their health, and children were under pressure that maybe we done something too wrong, that parents are angry all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So what?
you know, it's affected everybody. Pandemic, COVID has affected everybody. Even now we are being affected. So yes, there is going to be pressure, and there is going to be sometimes parents are going to get angry and frustrated. You know, they expect the children to do their homework, and you know, and sometimes the children struggle, parents struggle to help them because of obviously when the schools were shut, it was difficult. You know, we couldn't access. I'm saying we because I'm a parent and I struggled, you know, tutoring my daughter at home and doing work at home. Sometimes some parents have been working remotely at home, trying to do assessments. If somebody's saying to you, a young person on Teams or Zoom saying, you know, are they feeling suicidal? They've got suicidal ideations. And, you know, you have children running around or wanting help. It's just not very professional. So it's been a very challenging time for parents and young people. You know, we have survived. And like I said, we've still got a long way to go. We are still not out of the danger zone. The coronavirus is still around, but it's knowing how to keep ourselves safe. So yes, coming back to parents, you know, hats off to them. It's been a nightmare for parents. But, you know, they have survived. They've done really well. But I always say to parents, I have so many people ringing me and saying, you know, Saliha, we are struggling. We can't cope. How do I find time for myself? And, you know, I talk about distraction techniques, relaxation techniques, what they can do, even taking half an hour out for yourself or 1 hour, which is fantastic. Do something that what you enjoy doing. It kind of empowers you. Then you have your energy, and then you can deal with your children. So it's so important that self-care, that you take that as priority too.
Okay. This looks like. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, last few minutes of the program, if we can talk in Urdu or Punjabi, so that message for our sisters at home, parents, older people. So
Ji.
we just spend few minutes in Urdu or whichever you easy in speaking. So आप अब ये बताएं कि अपने हमारी जो ओल्डर जनरेशन है या कुछ लोग ऐसे हैं फैमिलीज में जो जिनकी फर्स्ट लैंग्वेज इंग्लिश नहीं है, तो उनके लिए आप उनको इसी मेंटल हेल्थ इशू के बारे में या प्रेशर के बारे में आप कैसे बताएंगी कि आप कुछ ब्रीफली उनको बताएं कि वो कैसे कोप कर सकती हैं, क्या क्या चीजें करें कि परेशानी कम हो?
हाँ, मैं कोशिश करूंगी उर्दू में एक्सप्लेन करने की। वैसे तो मुझे माहिर होना चाहिए उर्दू में, क्योंकि मेरे माँ बाप दोनों उर्दू टीचर्स थे। तो मैं कोशिश करूंगी। अभी भी जब मैं मिलन सेंटर में जाती हूँ, तो जो हमारी आंटीज हैं, जो जिन्हें हम आंटीज कहती हैं, उनके साथ मैं बात करती हूँ मेंटल हेल्थ के बारे में, कि ज़हनी तौर पे ना बहुत ही ये इम्पोर्टेंट है कि आप अपना दिमाग का जो बोझ है और हल्का करें। बात करने से ही इंसान को थोड़ी सी वो आसानी मिलती है। और जो हमारी जो ओल्डर जनरेशन जो है वो काफ़ी हमें मेंटल हेल्थ है और डिप्रेशन है, तो वो हमारे बारे में क्या सोचेंगी। उनको ऐसा नहीं सोचना चाहिए। तो ये मेरी कोशिश है, अभी यही मैं काम कर रही हूँ कि उनको इंकरेज कर रही हूँ, हिम्मत दे रही हूँ कि आप प्लीज़ आगे बढ़ें और जो हम काउंसलिंग कहते हैं, एक दूसरे से बात करें और अपना जो दिल का दिमाग का बोझ जो है थोड़ा सा हल्का करें। और मेंटल हेल्थ को आप भी प्रमोट करें, दुनिया को बताएं कि मेंटल हेल्थ सबके साथ हो। एनीबॉडी कैन हैव मेंटल हेल्थ। ये नहीं कि एक इंसान को मेंटल होता है, दूसरे इंसान को नहीं। वी ऑल सफर। जैसे कि हम स्ट्रेस कहते हैं, जब हम जाते हैं जॉब के लिए, तो थोड़ा सा एंजाइटी होती है, स्ट्रेस होता है। दैट्स शॉर्ट टर्म स्ट्रेस। मगर लॉन्ग टर्म अगर हो तो थोड़ा सा मसला बन जाता है। तो सो इम्पोर्टेंट कि हम पहले से ना मदद मांगे और बातें करें, थोड़ा सा अपना बोझ हल्का करें।
अच्छा, एक और बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन कि हमारी पेरेंट्स में और चिल्ड्रन में ابھی وہ چیزیں کم تو ہو گئی ہیں مگر وہ گیپ ختم نہیں ہو رہا کہ بچوں کا اپنے ماں سے تو رابطہ ڈسکس کر لیتے ہیں. تو آپ کیا سجیسٹ کریں گی بچوں کے لیے یا فادر کے لیے کہ وہ اس گیپ کو کیسے کم کیا جائے؟ فادرز کے لیے آپ کے پاس کچھ ایسا ہے کہ فادرز کو بتائیں کہ وہ بچوں کے قریب زیادہ قریب کیسے ہو سکتے ہیں؟
نہیں، جب پیرنٹس ایوننگ آتی ہے تو میں ہمیشہ کہتی ہوں کہ ماں باپ دونوں کو اکٹھا جانا چاہیے، دیکھیں کہ یہ تعلیم کیسی جا رہی ہے بچوں کی. تو اگر آپ بس ماں ہی جائے گی پیرنٹس ایوننگ میں اپوائنٹمنٹس میں تو باپ کو پتہ تو نہیں چلے گا نا کیا سچویشن ہے. تو میری ہمیشہ یہ کوشش رہتی ہے کہ میں اپنے ہسبینڈ کو ان کو بھی کہوں کہ آپ بھی ساتھ چلیں، بیٹی کی آج اپوائنٹمنٹ ہے یا میٹنگ ہے، یہ ہے وہ ہے. تو یہ بہت ضروری ہے کیونکہ ہم خود ہی ان کو نگلیکٹ کرتے ہیں. سو امپورٹنٹ، ہم سمجھتی ہیں عورتیں کہ وی کین مینیج، مگر آسانی رہے گی اگر ہم خود ہی کر لیں، مگر نہیں، وی آر پشنگ the husbands away. تو اسپیشلی مینٹل ہیلتھ، آپ بات کریں اپنے ہسبینڈ سے. اگر آپ کی بیٹی یا بیٹا کو تھوڑا سا وہ ہے ڈپریشن یا اسٹریس، تو آپ اپنے ہسبینڈ سے بات کریں کہ دیکھو میں نے یہ نوٹس کیا ہے، اس کو بلینگ ہو رہی ہے اسکول میں، تو چلے ہم میٹنگ کریں اسکول کے ساتھ. اس سے امپورٹنٹ دونوں پیرنٹس انوالو ہوں. That's how you can make a difference. اگر اکیلے آپ باپ پتہ نہیں کیا کر رہا، ماں پتہ نہیں، then this is not going to help the children. تو یہ بہت امپورٹنٹ ہے کہ ہم باپ کو بھی انوالو کریں، ماں باپ دونوں ایک دوسرے سے بات کریں کہ بچے کے مستقبل کے بارے میں اور کیسے ان کو مینٹل ہیلتھ سپورٹ بھی دے سکتے ہیں گھر پہ بھی.
مگر ایک چیز دیکھنے میں آئی ہے کہ مینٹل ہیلتھ ہو یا جو چائلڈ باہر سوسائٹی میں جاتے ہیں تو وہ فرسٹ کچھ چیزیں ایسی ہوتی ہیں جو ماں کو تو پتہ چل جاتی ہیں، مگر مائیں جو ہیں وہ ہائیڈ کرتی ہیں کہ ان کے ڈیڈ کو یہ چیز پتہ نہ چلے ورنہ وہ آرگومنٹ ہوگا یا کچھ ہوگا. تو اس کے لیے آپ کیا سجیسٹ کریں گی کہ وہ کیا طریقہ کیا جا سکتا ہے کہ بوتھ پیرنٹ کو انفارمیشن جیسے ہی ماں کو ملے تو وہ باپ کے ساتھ بھی ڈسکس کر کے تو وہ بچوں کے ساتھ بات کریں؟ اس بارے میں آپ
دیکھیے،
کچھ سجیسٹ کریں گی؟
ہاں دیکھیے، جو ینگ ماں باپ ہیں، جو ینگ جنریشن کے ہیں، انہوں نے بھی تعلیم حاصل کی ہے یہاں پہ اسکولز میں، تو ان کو بھی تھوڑی سی نالج ہے کہ پیئر پریشر ہے، بلنگ ہوتا ہے، کافی جو ایشوز ہوتے ہیں اسکول میں انہوں نے بھی ایکسپیرینس کیے ہوں گے. تو ان کو تھوڑا سا پتہ ہونا چاہیے کہ کیا ہو رہا ہے کیا نہیں ہو رہا. اپنے بچوں کو نا دوست بنا کے رکھیں، دونوں ماں باپ. اور ماں کا فرض بنتا ہے کہ باپ کو ہر بات بتائے، کیونکہ اینڈ پہ بتانے پہ تھوڑا سا it's too late. تو اس امپورٹنٹ کہ دونوں ماں باپ امپورٹنٹ ہیں بچوں کے لیے. بچے دونوں ماں باپ سے پیار کرتے ہیں، یہ نہیں کہ بس ماں کے ساتھ اٹیچ ہوتے ہیں، باپ کے ساتھ بہت کرتے ہیں. سو امپورٹنٹ کہ ماں باپ کو بھی انوالو کریں. اور باپ پوچھے گھر آ کے، I know he's probably tired، ماں بھی کام کرتی ہے، مگر پوچھے بچوں سے پوچھے کہ آپ کا دن کیسا گزرا بیٹا، اسکول میں کیا کیا آپ نے، کوئی ایسی کوئی مشکلات تو نہیں پیش آئی، ان کے ایجوکیشن میں انٹرسٹ لیں. listen to them, listen to them. the main چیز جو ہے listen. اگر آپ سنیں گے اپنے بچوں کو تو they feel comfortable، وہ آپ کے پاس آئیں گے، پھر آپ سے ہی باتیں کریں گے. کیونکہ اگر آپ ان کو ٹائم نہیں دیں گے تو وہ دوسرے لوگوں کے پاس، جیسے ڈرگز ڈیلر ہوں گے اسٹریٹس میں، اتنے کیسز میں نے دیکھے ہیں کہ بچے فیل لونلی، آئسولیٹڈ، تو وہ دوسرے لوگوں کے پاس تھوڑے سے ایموشنل سپورٹ کے لیے، پیار کے لیے جاتے ہیں. نہیں، we need to be there for our children. We need to be proactive and listen to them. Look at the signs of mental health. Look at the signs of what they're going through. اور bullying اتنی big issue ہے schools میں. ابھی بھی اتنے cases میرے پاس آئے ہیں bullying کے. ایک ماں، اس نے مجھے بتایا کہ اس کے بیٹے کے ساتھ 3 سال سے bullying ہو رہی ہے، تو کسی کو پتہ نہیں چلا، تو وہ رات کو سو نہیں رہا، روتا رہتا ہے، اور and then this results to suicidal attempt. So it's important کہ ہم بار بار، میں یہی کہوں گی کہ ماں باپ دونوں کا فرض اور it's their responsibility to
جی
be involved.
صالحہ، بہت شکریہ آپ کا.
Thank
ہم
you.
وقت کی کمی کی وجہ سے ابھی کوشچنس تو بہت ہماری تقریباً ایک لائن لگی ہوئی ہے جو ہمارے ویورز نے کوشچن بھیجے ہیں، مگر کیونکہ پروگرام کا وقت اس کی اجازت نہیں دیتا، انشاءاللہ آپ کے ساتھ نیکسٹ کسی سیشن میں اور پروگرام اس ٹاپک پہ
انشاءاللہ.
بھی کریں گے اور ایشین کمیونٹی کے حوالے سے آپ کے ساتھ پھر بات ہوگی. بہت شکریہ جی. ناظرین ابھی آپ نے صالحہ صدیق کے بات چیت سنی کہ کووڈ کے حوالے سے، مینٹل ہیلتھ کے حوالے سے، اور آپ کے جو کچھ کوشچن تھے وہ میں نے کوشش کی کہ وہ صالحہ سے کیے جائیں. تو ان کا اسی طرح ہمارے ساتھ، کیونکہ ایک پراپر مینٹل ہیلتھ میں جو پروفیشنل ہیں صالحہ وہ ساری خوبیاں رکھتی ہیں، اور انہوں نے ہمارے جو کنسرن تھے ان کے جوابات بھی دیے، اور انشاءاللہ کسی اور پروگرام میں پھر ان کے ساتھ یہ سارے اس پہ میٹرز ڈسکس کریں گے. تو جی ناظرین، جمیل مناس کو لندن انگو پاک سے اجازت دیجیے. انشاءاللہ پھر بات ہوگی. اللہ حافظ.